What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Joannis or Joe Hatagwa. I'm a Sierra Leonean American living in West Africa. I'm in New York right now, and if you want to know how one man saved Cameroon and got them their independence, then this is the video for you. All right. We are live. We're live on LinkedIn. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Instagram, and we are live on Facebook. As people start to come in, let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you guys can hear me. I want to hear from you guys so that I know you can hear me. And if you can hear me, then give me a thumbs up so that I know you can hear me. What's going on, guys? I see a couple people joining on Instagram. We'll see. Do we have anybody on YouTube yet? People on YouTube are slowly trickling in. Can you guys hear me? Okay, so the speaker Iman says yes, you can hear me. Great. Okay, cool. By the way, guys, if you are watching on Instagram Live, you can join us on YouTube Live. I am sending the link here and I'm pinning it so that you can watch it live and you can see our guests live. So I'll do a little bit of housekeeping before I introduce our guest, Dana. Hello, Dana from Russia. We got somebody from Russia. This is the first time we've had someone from Russia at least comment that they're live on the stream. Again, if you are joining us from Instagram, you can click on the link that is pinned there in the description or the comment section so that you can go over and watch us live on YouTube. And again, those of you who are on YouTube, let me know that you can hear me. Can you guys hear me? Give me a thumbs up so I know that you guys can hear me on YouTube. It looks like you guys can hear me on Instagram, but can you guys hear me on YouTube? Let me know. Give me a thumbs up. So today we're going to do something a little bit different. I know most of the content in general is about Ghana or my move to Ghana or the house building project in Sierra Leone. This time we're going to talk about Cameroon and Cameroon's history and a project that I was a producer on as a short film and has now evolved into something even bigger. And I'm excited to introduce you guys all to it. But before I do, for those of you who are new and are joining, again, my name is Joannis or Joe Hatagwa. I am Sierra Leonean American, as I said previously. I do live in Ghana full time. I'm in New York right now for work. And I do content about my move to Ghana and the house building process in Sierra Leone. I had a job for a year at Jumia as the head of advertising. And so that was a unique experience. And so I speak a lot about that in my older content. And I've started talking a little bit more about my experience working for a US-based company living in Ghana. And again, if you guys are joining, we're going to talk a little bit about a short film that I was a co-producer on and that story and how that story in total kind of impacted Cameroon and its independence. So if you're joining from Instagram Live, you can click on the link there that's pinned so that you can watch us live because we do have a guest joining today. Okay, cool. So Mariama's excited about this. Mariama is one of our Sierra Leonean friends. So what's up, Mariama? All right. So before I get in, I do want to introduce our guest. There's a long list of accolades. But I'll start with his credits and then maybe we'll bring him on in a second. So first of all, our guest is my cousin, a very proud cousin of mine. I think his first IMDb credit might go all the way back to like 1996 or something like that. And that was the first time we hung out. That's a story for another time. You know, when you meet your cousins for the first time, it's always interesting. But we had a good time. We watched Stephen King's It. That's a whole conversation for another time. It scared me. I'll put it that way. Anyway, so his credits include Battle Los Angeles, if you're familiar, Castlevania, and he's currently on a show called Blood of Zeus. He was also on a number of other projects like Blood Diamond and Captain America Winter Soldier. He is the director, producer, star, and writer of the German King short film and series, and his name is Adetokumboh M'Cormack.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Joe.
What's up? And I call him Tokes, but he's Ade to everyone else. So
Sammy calls me Tokes. So for Adetokumboh, the abbreviation, the
Adetokumboh,
nickname.
there you go.
Yeah. Adetokumboh M'Cormack.
Is there anything I missed? I mean, obviously I'm looking at your IMDb as a cheat sheet, and there's a long list of credits here. 49 to be exact.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you've ever counted them, but there's a lot.
I don't think I have.
So IMDb now tells you there's actually 50 credits, 49 previous, one upcoming. But did I miss anything? Is there anything else I should mention about your credits and your I guess your acting background?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I think you covered almost everything, with the exception of the things I did when I was a child. When I was 4, I played a bee in a play called Bees. So I think that was the genesis of my acting career. And I actually fell off the stage. I don't know if I told you this, but my dad came to see me. I fell off the stage because I had this mask on my face. Yeah. And then my dad was like, "Oh no, I'm gonna get my son," and I was like, "No, I got this." And I got back on the stage, and I think that's when we all knew I was gonna be an actor.
Clearly, so, you got right back into character, and
right back into character, got right back on the horse. And
nice.
So I grew up in. For those of you who don't know, I'm born in Sierra Leone, and then I grew up mostly in Nigeria and Kenya, and that's where I started my acting career. I did my first movie when I was 12, called The Great Elephant Escape, with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Julian Sands and the late great Leo Burmester. And I was like, I'm going to be an actor for the rest of my life. And my parents allowed me to go to SUNY Purchase Conservatory of Theatre Arts and Film, where I studied acting, and then I started just acting professionally ever since. So that's pretty much my background.
That's really great. And I'm glad you mentioned all of that, because that's how we met later on, as I was 10 when you were, I think you were doing press for The Great Elephant Escape.
I was doing press for The Great Elephant Escape. Yes, I was.
Yeah, and then we met as, we met as babies, but older, but so that I could remember him. We met when you came to the States for press for The Great Elephant Escape. Okay, cool. So Miss P says hello. What's up, Miss P? Mariama Forbes is saying it sounds like something is blocking the mic. Ade, are you using headphones?
I'm using headphones. Hold on, let me see if I can use regular. 1 second.
Is everyone else having a hard time hearing? I can hear them pretty loud and clear, but I don't know if everyone else is having issues.
Yeah, can people hear me?
Yeah, that's good. That's good for me. Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Well, they'll let us know, I guess, if not, right? Okay, cool. So I thought what I would do is we could play the trailer for The German King, because I've talked about it a bit on the live. Mariama, you're very familiar because we talked about this a lot when we first met in Sierra Leone back last year. But I thought maybe we could play the trailer so everyone can get an idea of what this short film was about, and then we can get into where we are now and what we're doing moving forward, because this is really, really an important project. And we're going to dig into all of that in a moment. But let's just start by playing the trailer, and then we can open it up to questions. Mike, I'll have questions for Ade, and then you guys can also ask your questions as well. So let me do this. I'll present my second screen. Let's see here. All right, cool. So let's get this started.
Our enemies will try to make you forget who you are.
Die beiden sind beste Freunde. Genauso wie du und Rudolf diesem Alter waren.
Guten Tag, Kaiserin.
Ein perfekter schwarzer deutscher Prinz. Würde das dir gefallen?
Yes, sir. I serve at the pleasure of the Kaiser.
Know that everything I did so that our people would be free.
What's the matter, Rudolf?
The Kaiser's like family. We raised as brothers to go against him.
Wilhelm is not your family. Your skin will always be the color of the rich Cameroonian soil. And they will always walk over it as if they own it.
Your family would rule under German protection. So why did you turn against us?
Your father's new ideas of independence are in cancer. I fear have infected you too.
Aber mit der Hinrichtung meines Jungen startest du einen Krieg.
Wir sind schon im Krieg.
Der Impfer Palast.
Feigling, lass mich sofort frei. What you
just watched is the trailer for German King. So I realized we didn't give much context to it. So maybe that's where we can start, right? So you guys got a chance to see the trailer. And this is a short film. So it's about a 20-minute short film that's had a theatrical run and a number of other things and many accolades. But first, let's get into the story of the German King so people understand why it's called the German King and what it's about. And then we can talk about where we are now and what's going what's happening moving forward. So first, Ade, do you want to talk about the German King, and then we should talk about how you came across the story and how you developed it. But let's talk about the story of it, since people just saw a trailer and I forgot to ask for context. So do you want to talk?
Yeah, so what you all just watched was a trailer for the short film The German King, which is something that I wrote, directed, produced, and starred in. As you can see, I played King Rudolf Manga Bell. And what it's about is this young prince who was raised in Germany in royal court alongside Wilhelm II, the Kaiser of Germany. And when he went back to Cameroon to become king after his father died, he sees that his people are being subjugated and oppressed under tyrannical German colonial rule. And he vows to rise up and lead his nation in rebellion to defeat colonialism in Cameroon and ultimately in Africa. And what you see in that scene was like his final days, basically rebelling against this tyrannical colonial rule. And it's just such an amazing story. It's an inspiring story. It's an uplifting story. It's very much, I always tell people, it's like if Black Panther and The Crown and Game of Thrones had a baby, that's the story of the German King. So, and it just showcases Africans in a completely different light from what we've seen before. We're not stereotypical. We're not, it's not a negative story. It's a robust story. It's about royal people. We're dignified. We're powerful. So yeah, we sort of changed the narrative a little bit just to show a different side of Africa.
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, you kind of touched on it, but I remember you and I talking about the roles that you were getting, and kind of you taking your career in your own hands. So I think maybe this is a good point to talk about how you came across the story and how you decided to put pen to paper, to write it, and then to decide to direct it and actually produce this short film. What led to this, the idea of doing The German King?
Yeah, that's a very good question. As an actor, I've done a lot of roles. But I found that a lot of the roles I was doing were very stereotypical. A lot of them, I've done films like Blood Diamond, and I've just done a lot of characters. But the characters I felt were just overly, if there's a movie about Africa, it was about war, it was about famine, it was about disease, and I just didn't want to keep playing these characters over and over again. And I just felt like, Chuno Chebe says it best: if you don't like someone's story, you write your own. And for me, whenever I turned on the television, I saw something about Africa or Africans in diaspora. I saw that these characters, these stories, these films I couldn't really relate to them. And a lot of people I knew didn't relate to them. They're like, that's not who we are. And my dad's a diplomat. It's like yes, there are people who live in huts and whatnot, don't get me wrong, but a lot of us live in big houses and we live in capital cities. And I was like, there's a different side of Africa that needs to be seen, and the stories that need to be told. And I remember there was a casting director who basically, I tell the story way too often, but she was like, you're never going to be a Denzel Washington. You're always going to play someone from the hood, someone from the street. It's like, you're just fix the way you talk, it goes the way you look. That's playing a lot of, I was like, let me play someone who speaks a dignified way. She was like, no, you got to be, because you're dark chocolate skin and your wide African nose, you're going to be someone from the hood. And I was like, yeah. Those are not the roles that I necessarily want to play, or the only roles that I could play. And so I decided to start looking into what else I could play, and just looking into stories about Africa, because I was so dissatisfied, about what I was seeing on film and television. And so I decided to come up with, so I was Googling, I was like, African heroes. I started Googling African heroes. And the first person that came up was Rudolf Manga Bell. And I was blown away by his story. I grew up in Africa, and I never saw this story or people like him in our history books or even in our history classes. I'd never seen someone who was like our version of William Wallace and Braveheart. And so the danger of not having these people is you sort of think that these people never existed. You don't think that Africa, where Africans had any impact in, history, or were revolutionary or heroes of their own narratives. You think history started when the colonial masters, quote unquote, came and saved us from savagery. And that is so not the case. And so when I uncovered Rudolph's story, I started seeing all these other stories of all these other African heroes that I never knew about. And, my parents never even knew about them either. And I said, listen, it is my destiny, it's my duty to actually start creating these stories and make sure that a future generation doesn't get to miss out on all these heroic figures. Because, we do know about the William Wallaces, but we don't know about the Yas and Tewas, the Queen Mother of Ghana. We don't know about the Rudolf Manga Bells, the Martin Paul Sambas, all these incredible African heroes who really made change, and just enormous change over the last 100 years.
Excellent. Very well put. And then so there's some questions about your posh accent. So, you know, Ade grew up in Kenya. You went to an international school. Your dad is a diplomat. So maybe that answers the question. You mentioned all of that.
Yeah.
So, yes.
I went to private English school, but it's an amalgamation of different things. Yeah. I mean, my best friends were English. My teachers were English. And so that probably explains my weird hybrid accent. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I always thought Tooks's accent sounded very British, but I think if you talk to some folks from England, they might say it doesn't sound as British as
exactly.
Us Americans. We have very little context for what's happening internationally, as you guys know. Okay, cool. So just a couple comments. Forever Local says completely new to me. Looking forward to seeing this, and we'll talk about how you can. And then Mariama Forbes says the story is a very different narrative. Have you lived in Cameroon or have a connection to Cameroon that inspired you to write and produce a story? I think you kind of just spoke to that, right? You were Googling heroes and then this one came up. But on that note, let's talk about the German King, right? So, you know, how long ago was the movie completed, the short film? I actually don't remember when it was.
Yeah, so the short film, interesting enough, it was around August, little known fact, but around August 8th, 2018, I started Googling the story. And I think August 8th was the day that Rudolf Manga Bell died. It was the date of his execution. He died in 1914 at the start of World War I. So it just felt very serendipitous that this was, you know, the story that I was supposed to tell. And I remember also people were talking about, because this is right around when Black Panther was coming out, right? And there was all this press and people would be like, I wish we had more African stories that were real. And I was like, we do have African stories that are real. You know, German King is just one of many, hundreds of them. And so, yes, and so shortly after, I was so intimidated because it is such a huge story. Right. And it's just, I wanted to do it justice. And I remember thinking, well, the only way I could do this is by baby steps, right? And so I figured if I did a short film, helped, you know, went to sort of financiers and went to the crowd. Interestingly enough, we did an Indiegogo campaign. And within a few days, a lot of people were like, we want to see this. And so people flocked to our campaign, which is amazing. And to all of you who are watching, who actually contributed to our campaign, thank you so much. And then my dear friend Polly Perrette came on board and she EP'd it as well, executive produced it as well. But it was just at that time I realized, you know, there is so much more to the story that needs to be told. But I wanted to do the short film, which ended up doing really well. It went to Cannes. It also, I won a Best Actor award at the Rhode Island Film Festival, and it was playing at Holly Shorts and LA Shorts and all these other places. And one of the things that ended up happening as a result was we had a meeting with Angel Studios who watched it, and they were like, this is really good, and this is a story that needs to be told, but not even just as a short film or a feature film, but it needs to be turned into a multi-season TV series. And so they were like, is that something you'd consider doing? And I said, absolutely. You know. And so after we did it, I think we shot in late 2018 is when we shot, and then it came out in 2019. And of course we shot in America. Don't tell anybody because a lot of it looks like it took place in Africa. But we figured, you know, in order to save money and in order to, you know, in the long, when we actually turn into a TV series, we figured that's when we'll actually shoot it abroad. And so with Angel Studios now, they've taken it on and agreed to distribute it and produce it. And so now we're doing a crowdfund, or we're right now expressing interest through the expressing interest phase. So if you guys want to express interest in any way, go to angel.com/German King, and if enough people express interest, then we'll go to a crowdfund and you get to be part of making the German King happen.
Absolutely. And I will say I had the opportunity to be a part of this in a small way. I went to,
it was a big way, Joe. It was a big way.
as a co-producer in this, and I got a chance to go to the Pan-African Film Festival, and I saw how other people in our category responded to it. I thought it was good, but I don't know if I have a bias because my cousin's the one writing, directing, and starring in it. And I remember they were so surprised by how small the budget was, because our competition in this category that we were in had $200,000 film budgets or more, right? Some were sponsored by governments, right? I mean, what was it, the diversity category or something like that?
That was actually Holly Shorts that you saw. You saw it both at Pan-African and Holly Shorts. So yeah, Holly Shorts, one of the films was sponsored by the government. I think it was South Korea, and it was like $250,000, something crazy like that. And I was like, we have no baby German King. That's a fraction of that budget, you know, which was crazy. But it looked like it was, you know, a couple $100,000, if not $1 million, just because production value. It was location. It was incredible producers like Joe, my cousin. It was my amazing cinematographer, Justin Janowitz, our set dresser, our set designers, our editors. We had a really good team that made the production value look like it was much higher than it actually was.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was great to see other people who are in this space respond to it, because they gave me a clear indication of how good it really was. Because, you know, they're obviously doing what Ade does, right? And so I just remember everyone always coming up to us after it was over and just saying, this was really, really good. I can't wait to see what this becomes. Everyone kept saying that. And that was reassuring and really awesome to see. Unfortunately, my full-time job at the time did not allow me to be there during the filming. So I was kind of there involved we did a live together. Ade and I did a live together. I'll put that up on my YouTube channel if you guys want to go out and check that. And so, yeah, and we, and, you know, I was a part of, you know, trying to help raise the money for the Indiegogo campaign. And so, you know, with Indiegogo, we reached the goal right at the last minute, right? We surpassed the goal.
Yeah.
Passed the goal, but it was really cool to see.
We did.
Yeah, it was really cool to see. So yeah, I mean, I wanted to touch on the short film a bit because you know, I've never been a part of that process, and I represented German King at a film showcase in Ghana during the year of return. That was cool. Everybody's response to the film was amazing, and to kind of talk to people about how they wished they saw this somewhere else or they were able to see it. There are some questions actually about how they can see the short film. Is there any way to see the short film today?
Yes, you can actually see it today. You can see the short film today. We actually call it a torch. Angel Studios calls it a torch / proof of concept. But if you just go to angel.com/German King, you scroll all the way towards the bottom of the page, you'll see a link to the German King. So if you just go to angel.com/German King and go all the way to the bottom of the page, you'll see a link, and just click on that. You can watch the entire 20-minute short film.
Yeah, and now that we're doing that, let me just pull it up just so people can see what that looks like. Let me share my screen really quickly. So again, this is angel.com/German King. That's the URL. Once you type it in, it'll show you. And then, as Ade just said, scroll all the way down to the bottom. And then here you can watch. This is the full film here, right?
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so you'll be able to watch it here. Definitely well worth the watch, and it'll give you a little bit of a taste of what's to come with the actual series itself. So in terms of expressed interest, this is the number here. So today you can express interest, and we'll announce when you can actually help support the film financially when that time comes. Is there a date for that yet, or we're still working together?
If and when right now we're just in the testing waters phase. So if and when that happens, then we'll let you know. Yeah, but right now you can just express interest by going to angel.com/German King.
Cool, and that'll help this get accelerated.
Yes, that is correct.
we do need your help to get this accelerated, and that's why I wanted to do this live, because, you know, obviously this is a project that is near and dear to me. I remember when we were living in New York, and I was like, one day I might want to be a movie producer, and Tokes was like, I'm gonna be a director one day.
Yeah.
And in 2018 it happened. So you know, we want to continue this, of course, for sure. Okay, cool. So, you know, I think we jumped around a little bit because I wanted to just touch on some of those things. We kind of talked a little bit about your career and how you kind of got to this point to why you wanted to do the German King. We talked a little bit about the story of the German King, at least the short film. I think what we should do is maybe talk about the series and how it expands on the world of what's in the life of Rudolf Manga Bell. And I think maybe we could touch on that a little bit. Do you want to talk a little bit about how the series is going to expand on it? Because obviously the short film was 20 minutes.
Yeah.
About a full season of a series, a multi-season
series. Yes, exactly. Ideally, we'd love to have several seasons of the series. And so, your help would be greatly appreciated if you go to angel.com/German King. But no, so what you saw was basically just a little taste of things to come. So the show officially starts. The date of the first season is 1884, right around the scramble for Africa. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it was basically a time when the colonial powers came together and said, we're going to carve up Africa, and you'll take this, you'll take that. And basically they were mining Africa of all her resources. And that's pretty much how the Western powers became super, super rich and Africa became really, really poor. And even though they said slavery was over, no, it's like they were enslaving people. And, because of that, concentration camps started being set up in Southwest Africa, in the Herero land, which is one of the first genocides in Africa, well, one of many genocides in Africa, but the first official genocide that we recognize in Africa. And then later on, what happened in Congo, where up to 20 million people died as a result of King Leopold's rule. And all of that led up to what was happening in Cameroon, which was the German colony at the time, and the concentration camps that were happening, the mining of rubber, the mining of, killing elephants for their ivory. And slowly, and also basically apartheid was happening. And so a lot of the Cameroonians who lived by the Wouri River, which is like a major port, they were told, get off our land. And so suddenly you start seeing apartheid happening. And those who didn't agree were killed or put in concentration camps. And so Rudolf Manga Bell, who was the king now, he lived in Germany, he got his law degree, became a big hotshot fancy lawyer, and came back to Africa and was like, wait a minute, my people are literally being killed off and enslaved, and this isn't right. And so what he did was he tried to fight back using the law, because he was a very smart man, and he, fought it in court. He, set up all these, meetings with the Reichstag and the government and Wilhelm II. But what he didn't realize, and initially he actually won, and I don't want to give too much away because I want you guys to watch the series. But what he didn't count on was the fact that racism was something that was real. And even though he was trying to fight for the people, their lives ultimately didn't matter. They were like, it's always funny when I hear things like Black Lives Matter. I'm like, it's true, and 100 years ago it was true. But they just felt like the Germans and the European powers are like, well, the laws apply to us, but the laws don't apply. Or they're like, if the right thing to be done, it happens for white people, but then Black people, their lives don't matter. It's not as important. And so they ended up just arbitrarily killing these people. And, ultimately Rudolf Manga Bell, sadly, in fighting for his people, ended up losing his life as well. And so this show is going to show how he fought back and ultimately how he just was there for his people. And it's a really powerful, impactful story.
Nice. And for those of you who are just joining, we're talking to Adetokumboh M'Cormack. He is the writer, director, producer, and star of German King Torch / short film and the series coming soon. So we're talking to him about how he came to be in this, how he came to do the short film, and then how it turned into a series, and where we're going next. And my involvement early on, and how excited I am to see the series itself. And you guys, anybody who's joining from Instagram, you can click on that link to join the YouTube live if you want to see our guests live in person. And if you want to support the series, it's Angel. Was it angelstudios.com?
Angel.com/German King.
There you go. Angel.com/German King. Scroll all the way down to the bottom to see the short film / torch. So you can actually see what was already produced, and then you'll get an idea of what's to come. Okay, cool. So so Angel saw it. The folks at Angel Studios saw it. They decided this needs to be a multi-season series. I think that's also an interesting story. So how did you get notified that they wanted to do this series, and like what was that process to decide we're going to turn this into a series and we're going to move forward with Angel Studios?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I did a short film, and we're getting a lot of attention from different networks, and we're like, okay, well, what happens now? A lot of the people who liked it were like, turn it into a TV series. And I was adamant about it not being a TV series. I wanted it to be a feature-length film. I was like, I knew that what should we call it? Yeah, Black Panther had come out, and I saw this appetite for Black films, and I saw that Woman King was going to be coming out soon, and I was like, Black films are the way to go. But you realize you can actually do more and have more of an impact with a multi-season TV series. And I don't have to just cram everything into a 90-minute film. I can actually take time, let the story breathe, let the characters breathe, and also tell more of the story. So and I'd also done Angel Studios produces a show called The Chosen, which is the highest crowdfunded series of all time. and I actually guest starred on The Chosen. I don't know if that's something you mentioned, Joe. But,
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So I starred on The Chosen, and so I saw this incredible model where the crowd basically gets to choose what they want to see. And so I remember thinking, yeah, well, the crowd chose The Chosen, and everything they choose, basically, they have a sample audience, and they say, do you want to see this this torch? They call it a torch, a proof of concept. Do you want to see this turned into a TV series or a film or whatever? And the crowd, thousands of people say, yay or nay. And The German King was one of the things where they were like, we want to see this as a TV series. And so we talked about it, and I was like, okay, we'll do the TV series. We won't do the movie idea. And so that's where we're at right now. And so thanks to the crowd, I mean, basically a lot of, this is also the time, remember, when a lot of people were saying, this after the BLM, and a lot of studios were like, we want to see Black content. And then suddenly they're like, no, just kidding. We're like, but Angel Studios was like, no, we want to see this. And they were committed to making this happen. And we're so thankful to partner up with them because they're an incredible studio. But ultimately, they just listened to the audience. Unlike a lot of other people who don't, they're like, well, we know what's best for people. And suddenly there's no diversity. There's no historically marginalized people in films or in TV. And Angel was like, no, clearly there's literally billions of people around the world who want to see themselves represented, who want to see this show. Why not give them a voice? And why not, give them an outlet where they can feel seen? And so that's how The German King came about.
There it is. And so to date, I think some of the things you've done around it, you've gone live recently with some folks who are of Cameroonian descent, right?
Yeah. So most recently, you guys,
you've done to kind of bring awareness to the series.
Yeah, so we've gone live with a few people. We went live with Kobe Blaze last week, and if you go on our website or if you go on our YouTube channel, you can actually see the interview I did with him. For those of you who don't know Kobe Blaze, he was a gentleman on 90 Day Fiancé. He's originally from Cameroon. And what's amazing about his story is over the course of the interview, I found out that he's also Cameroonian royalty. And so he was able to answer a lot of those questions that I had about just basically what a royal is like in Cameroon. And what was also cool about the interview, I hope you guys check it out. It's also on our Instagram page. But what was really cool about that was, Kobe basically moved to America, and it was his first time in America, and he was very fish out of water in the same way that I imagine Rudolf Manga Bell to have been when he came to Cameroon in 1880 something. Just sort of that like newness and seeing everything Western and foreign for the very first time and being forced to assimilate and acclimatize to it. So it was a really incredible thing to have him on board. Our editor, we had an interview with Stephanie Philo, and she edited, I don't know if everyone's watched Dahmer. It's like the #1 TV series on Netflix right now. And so she's our editor on The German King, really smart woman, incredibly talented editor. And we're so lucky to have her on board. And we did a live stream with her not too long ago. And we also had Prince Daniel Douala Manga Bell, who is the great grandson of Rudolf Douala Manga Bell. He came with us to Cannes when we screened earlier this year. And that was an incredible thing because I think people were like, wait a minute, it sort of made the story true. When you have literal royalty, the offspring of of Rudolf Douala Manga Bell standing there, they're like, we're the presence of royalty. And I think what's interesting is we know about, from The Crown, for example, we know about Prince William, Prince Harry, and all those people, but we don't know about African royals. And so to see this man personified, African royalty personified, really was an incredible thing. And people being like, do we bow? Do we curtsy? Do we high five? We don't know, but he's like the coolest, most chill royal that I've ever met. And so we had a live stream with him, and that's also on our website, and you can check that out as well.
Awesome. Yes. And I think it's great that there's been some interest and there are other folks. And I love all the different connections, because I did want to ask you about that, the connections to the film and the people who are, actually of Cameroonian descent, because I do think it's important to have those people who are directly connected to be involved in the project in some way, shape, or form, to really make sure that we're staying true to the story, right? And people are getting a chance to see the real story here, and get the sign off, right, from those folks who are direct descendants or are at least closely related to the Cameroonian story, right?
Absolutely. And to answer the question someone had before about, are we connected or working with Cameroonians? And yes, I mean, we're working with a lot of Rudolf Manga Bell's great grandchildren. In fact, over the next few weeks, we're going to start releasing some of the footage, some of the interviews we had. For example, I had an interview with his eldest surviving great grandchild or grand niece, pardon me, and she's 93 years old. And it was amazing to hear her have all these stories about what Cameroon was during German colonialism, what it was like in the early 1900s and whatnot. And she was like, just such a wealth of information, showing us pictures that we'd never seen, and pictures that are not, in any of the history books that I've read about Rudolf Manga Bell, and
Right.
just sort of firsthand accounts of his life, his experience, and whatnot. So it was a beautiful thing to talk to her and her children. And then, of course, we had an interview with Princess Marilyn, which we're going to release in the next few weeks. And Princess Marilyn is the king's sister, King Jean-Yves' sister. And she was just such a wealth of information. And in fact, what we did right after Cannes this year, we went to Berlin and we got to just see a lot of, there's at the Mark Museum, there's Rudolf Manga Bell art exhibition. And you just get to see it. And if you guys have a chance, I think it's only open till the end of the year. So if you end up if anyone goes to Germany, go check it out. And you just see all these really cool things. But we also got to go there, watch it, grab some footage of it, and talk to some experts about his life. And of course, we also got to witness a reunion between Rudolf Manga Bell's great-grandchildren, so Princess Marilyn and Prince Daniel, as well as the first family that Rudolf stayed with when he got to Germany. And it was one of the most emotional things that I've ever witnessed, because you have these people who could not be, more different. This black family, this white family coming together and seeing that there's literally more that unites us and separates us. And that's really what life is about. Not the separation and division. It's just like we're human beings, and being a good person fundamentally is the only thing that matters. Oh man, it was incredible. Warmed my heart.
Nice. I love that there's like all of these peripheral benefits that come to doing something like this, right? All these other experiences that you're gaining as part of building out this project. Is there anything else that surprised you when you went through this project, right? I mean, you were literally had your hands in every single part of all of these projects, right? The Torch to now the series. Anything that surprised you about what you learned about Cameroon or Rudolph's family or anything else?
Honestly, okay, so there's two parts to that question. What surprised me was how hard this whole process is. It's like, because I wrote, directed, starred, and I'm producing, and it's a lot of work. And so I don't think I'm glad we did the Torch first before we got into the series, because I'm like, now I'm a little bit more prepared. It is a lot of work, but I love it. I love every part of it. But what surprised me, and I'll be perfectly honest, was you hear things about sacrifice, right? You hear about Jesus, for example, and you think, that's such an incredible story, and there's no way a human being can be anywhere, close to that, right? Rudolf Manga Bell is the most Christ-like figure I have ever seen, ever. And that's not hyperbole. It's just, I really, literally mean it. I mean, the man was good, really, really good, and was willing to sacrifice literally everything just so that his people could live and just so his people could be free. I've never seen that amount of self-sacrifice ever. Knew very well that he was going to die. But he was like, as long as my people are free, that is all that matters. People he didn't know. So when you hear things like, Jesus died for our sins and died so that we can be free, it's like, you're like, but that's Jesus, But to see another mortal being do that, it blew me away. And I kept looking for faults. And I was like, surely this man is just too good to be true. And every expert I spoke to, even his great-grandkids, and it's like they all echoed that sentiment. This man was a truly, truly incredible human being. And knew very well that, he's like, it's so easy. And I think this is what we want in our politicians. This is what we want in our leaders. Really believing in doing the right thing for the good of their constituents, for the good of their citizens. And we don't often see that. And we try to hold them accountable, but they don't, that never happens. And Rudolf Manga Bell was like, I am king. And yes, because I'm king, I must sacrifice all for my people. And it was just an incredible, incredible thing to witness. And it's also, what's surprising is that that's not in any history book.
Right.
And this was during World War I. And so we read about World War I, right? We know about, the people who were involved. We know about what happened afterwards, the Treaty of Versailles. We learn about, we've seen the movie 1917. We see, but we don't see the Africans who were instrumental in defeating German colonialism in Africa, who were instrumental in helping to win the war for the Allies. And Rudolf Manga Bell was right up there with the Allies and right up there with the heroes that need to be recognized and celebrated.
Amazing. I want to say this. Those of you who are watching, I want you guys to tell me if you've ever heard of Rudolf Manga Bell and this story, right? And his involvement in World War I. Because I for sure had never heard of it. You know, I did when you told me about it. I was completely surprised. I mean, and you grew up in Nigeria and Kenya, right? And you mentioned that you had
no idea. Right? My parents had no idea. Our parents had no idea, right? Which is crazy. You know, so if our parents didn't know this, how are we supposed to know this? You know, so yeah. But I'm just glad that future generations going to know that, you know, yes, we're going to celebrate Black Panther, awesome. You know, but we'll also know that there's true heroes that existed as well.
And yeah, so the Sound of Accra podcast said they had never heard of it, and you know, and this is a really important story to tell, because again, this is historical fact, right? It's not. And listen, I'm going to go see Wakanda Forever in about 3 hours. So of course, I love these movies, and I love the idea of it. But I mean, obviously, it's fictional, right? It's not even a real country, right? So, you know, obviously, we all know on watching, and we see that this is all fictional. But we can have, this is a story that we're talking about today that actually happened, and it's the history that is kind of forgotten, right? I mean, people who in Cameroon know it. But it doesn't seem to have gotten even outside of Cameroon on the continent of Africa, let alone around the world.
And Joe, just to, you know, a lot of people in Cameroon don't even know this story at all, which is really, really sad. I spoke to a lot of Cameroonians while I've been developing the story, and they're like, we don't know who that is. And so imagine if people within the country of Cameroon don't know, how's the rest of Africa, let alone the world, supposed to know about Rudolf Manga Bell?
Right. There it is. Okay, so on that note, we could tell everyone where they can watch it and how they can support it. I don't know if there's two different questions, but let's start with when the series comes out, and we'll let you know when it's out and live. But where will people be able to watch it?
So if and when this goes to series, you can go to just download the Angel app. And so if you just type Angel on your iPhone or your tablet or a smart device, you can get what's called the Angel app, and then you can just download that, and you can watch the TV series for free. So you don't have to pay a dime for it. It's just available to you because you want to see it. And that can only happen, obviously, if you go to angel.com/German King. And so, but yeah, you can watch it for free on the Angel app. In fact, right now, we mentioned this before, The Chosen is their best known series, and The Chosen right now is available on the app. And also, let me shout out my studio really quickly. The Chosen is actually going to have a theatrical run this coming weekend, I believe. So you can actually watch the first and second episode of season 3 in the movie theaters. And hopefully that will be something we do with the German King if and when that happens. So yeah, but just download the Angel app. And then what was the second question?
How can they support the project?
How can you support? Well, let me tell you. Go to Angel. I feel like one of those salesmen. Let me tell you something.
Yes.
If you want to support the series, please, and this only happens with you guys, with your help, just go to angel.com/German King and just express interest in any amount. I think right now, 900 and something people have expressed interest in the amount of $830,000. And we're so incredibly thankful to each and every one of you, because it shows that the crowd wants to see this happen. And so just go to angel.com/German King, express interest in any amount. And yay, yeah, thank you guys very much. As you can see there, we have 833,442. Just sign up, put your email in there, and then just say, I express interest in whatever amount. And we'll let you know if and when we go to a crowdfunding raise. And you'll see the series. So
nice. And maybe, you know, to give everybody a little bit of an understanding of the Angel platform and how it works, right? Because, you know, obviously this is a unique way to share this content, right?
Yeah.
We haven't gone to some of the traditional platforms that some people might be used to, and that's for good reason, right? This is based on the people telling you what they want, right? This is not based on gatekeepers telling you what they think you want, right? Is there anything I'm missing there? It's like the model and how it works.
That's exactly it. What I love about Angel is literally they said, what do you guys want to see? And you guys said, we want to see the German King. So that's what's so awesome. You don't have these gatekeeping studios who are like, let's do the German King, but let's put like dragons and like some random things in there. I mean, like, they're like, tell the story as you see fit, tell it with an authentic voice, and just do whatever you want. So we don't have, these people breathing over our shoulders and saying, we need to make it in a certain way. They're like, we trust you. We trust you because you're African. We trust you because you've got the right people on board. We trust you because you've got the royal family on board. And now go make a TV series in the way that you want to make it. And we're so fortunate because of that. And one of the first lines in the pilot is, the tale of the hunt will always glorify the hunter until the lion speaks. And it's an African proverb, and that's basically what we use as a mantra for each episode. It's like, it's now time to give the lion a voice. And so we're basically going to tell the story of the lion. And that includes, telling things in a way that are not conventional. It includes telling stories, including our African mythology and our folklore, and the stories that, Joe and I are originally from Sierra Leone, and the stories that our grandparents would tell us, when we sat on their laps or sat around, in the living room. And so it's just non-conventional, but it's the way that, as African Americans, the way that our ancestors have told stories, and and generations of stories that have been told, we're going to continue telling them in the same way in the German King series.
Excellent. Any parting words? I mean, you ended that well, but is there any other parting words that you would like to provide before we bring this to a close?
No, we're just super stoked to tell the story, and you guys can come along this wild and crazy adventure with us by just going to angel.com/German King. And for those of you who've expressed interest so far, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you because it shows that this story needs to be told and you guys want to see it. So.
Absolutely. Yes. And I'll second that too. I'm really excited for this to be seen by the masses, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that it gets out to more people. Those of you who haven't seen The Torch, go watch The Torch, because it really gives you an idea of how incredible this story is. And you're going to leave wanting more. That's what it does. It was a great idea to do it. It's kind of like the proof of concept. Any of you who've ever worked in advertising or in technology, right? They always talk about a MVP or a proof of concept. It's definitely a proof of concept, and it's a really well done one. I think it was over 25 different awards it won, the short film.
Over 25 different awards. We won Best of Festival, Best Short Film, Best Actor, Best Production Design, so many bests, which is so exciting. But everyone, it's funny because we're at Cannes. I don't know if I told you the story, Joe. We're at Cannes this year. And at the end of the screening, this African-American guy stands up and he's like, "It's about effing time." And he's like cheering, completely breaking decorum. But it's like, finally our story's being told, right? And it's like in just a really dignified, robust, amazing way. So yeah, if you go to angel.com/German King and express interest, you'll get to see the TV series happen.
And there it is. So again, thanks guys for watching. As always, make sure you share this with anybody out there who wants to see more films like this and series like this, I should say. Those of you who like this, make sure you hit the thumbs up. Make sure you write in the comments any other questions you might have for Ade. I'll make sure I'll answer them, and we maybe can do a part 2. We will be coming back again closer to the time when we're, if and when we are ready to go to series. And with that, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys all on the next video.